Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Voxel Voice Cast. It is Thursday, April 12th, and we are here to talk about our time at PAX. I'm Ryan Shepard. With me today, we've got Redbeard.
How's it going, everybody?
We've got Derek.
How's it going?
And we've got newcomer to at least this version of the cast, Cy Cuddy.
People, I'm finally out of my prison. Ryan, I want to thank you for giving me parole early and letting me join this cast.
Well,
We joke
you're
about
welcome.
that, but you see his prison photo.
Right. Yeah.
Hey! In prison, I've got a nickname. It's Big Slim.
I don't even know what that means.
Right?
I'm not sure how I'm supposed to be feeling about that.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not the one who made the nickname.
Cy doesn't know the picture I grabbed for him.
Yeah, unfortunately, no one's going to be able to see my beautiful face, but Ryan's handiwork has gotten a hopefully decent photo, not one of me in my beer-drinking college days.
I don't know.
I think it looks like a picture of the college days.
I'm pretty sure it is. I mean, I cropped it, so.
Is it me in the sombrero?
Maybe. Anyway.
Is that Taylor Lautner?
Oh, come on now. I can act better than Taylor Lautner, people.
Oh, man, I don't even know who that is. But I'm assuming it's a good joke.
It is a good joke.
Okay, good. I like good jokes. So yeah, me and Cy, we went to PAX. You're gonna have to excuse me because I am on the verge of coming down with a cold, so my energy level may drop dramatically as we go through this. But I'm gonna do my best.
Ryan, you're playing hurt. I always have respect for that, man.
Yeah. I'm gonna milk it up too. I'm gonna pretend I'm worse than I am.
Ryan's just gonna die on stream. I'm just gonna fall asleep.
I might.
It looks like he's pretty awake, so.
Yeah, I might just pass out right here.
Looks hard to see.
I took some. I purposely took some NyQuil so that would actually happen. I'm just gonna.
The green fairy.
Yeah.
Well, if three go down, it's going to be red and a head. But by that I mean just a picture of me. And if red goes down, it's just the whole stream is going to be me, people staring at my picture. No lips, no movement, no nothing. It'll be like one of those old school picture book cartoons or something.
Well, what happened to Derek? Did Derek die canonically?
No,
Yes?
Derek said
fall
that he'd
asleep.
fall asleep.
Okay, we're both
Yeah,
dead.
I've been up since
Okay.
4 a.m., so.
All right, I get it now.
It's alright, Ryan. You get the pass tonight on everything you don't get.
Right, yeah. I'm getting almost nothing so far. So, PAX, right? Let's talk about it.
Let's.
Is the gameplay going? No?
No, we just got the program.
Why is that not working? Is it because I'm in studio mode? There it goes. There it goes. For some reason, studio mode can't play videos in it, or at least doesn't show up. So yeah, me and Sai went to PAX. We went on the Thursday, which was, well, it was a week ago today. And we were able to set up some appointments with some developers, some publishers that were there. So if you don't know what PAX is kind of like the E3 for indie games and gamers. E3 is kind of like a press event for the big publishers to get their games out and have the press see them. But PAX is more indie focused and allows primarily the public to buy tickets and play games right on the show floor. It's a really, really cool place. It's a really cool time, and if you have an opportunity to go to one near you, I would highly recommend it. The tickets are real cheap, and the experience is kind of kind of unmatched in terms of like video game expos and things like that. Yes, it's PAX stands for Penny Arcade Expo. They kind of gone away from calling it Penny Arcade. They're kind of just calling it PAX. Kind of changed hands, who's running it and everything like that. But yeah, that's what it originally started off as. Ryan,
one thing we should also add is the PAX that we went to was the Eastern region one in Boston. There are PAXs not just all over the United States, but all over the world too. I know there's one in Australia.
Yeah.
I believe London has one.
There's one in there. I know there's one in Australia, and I believe the people who put on PAX I believe they purchased something that it might have been the parent company of Eurogamer, who put on a lot of expos over in Europe. So those, like, I don't know if they're gonna rename it PAX. They're probably just gonna keep it the same thing that they used to call it over there, but it may change to be more of an in line with what people expect from PAX. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, it's a great time, and I know there's one in Seattle, there's one in I believe it's Texas. So if you can go to one, totally do it, because it's real fun. Anyway, we took some time when we talked to some developers there, and we got a couple games that we're gonna chat about. So our first appointments were with 11-Bit Studios, which you may know them from This War of Mine, which is like it's kind of like it's kind of hard to explain. It's like you're trying to keep these people alive in this war-torn cityscape.
It's in Sarajevo, basically, Ryan, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's the city that it takes place in, and there's like, it's under siege basically, and you have this tenement of like apartment buildings that you're trying to keep the people that are there alive. Like, there's food shortages and health issues, and the whole place is bombed out. And they have their own game that they're currently pushing out called Frostpunk, but they also are taking on a role as a publisher for some indie games. And the first one we talked to was Children of Morta is the name of the game. I believe it's by Dead Mage Studios, and you can see it right now on the screen. Yeah, Derek, it does. This game does look like Hyper Light Drifter. This was one of the things that the developer said kind of like inspired them in terms of like art style and stuff like that. And so this game's kind of like you're diving into dungeons, and it's kind of like a roguelike where if you die, you lose all your you don't lose all your stuff. You take back some experience and gold and stuff like that. But the cool thing about this game is they're kind of building a narrative around it, which is something a lot of roguelikes don't really do. They just kind of like push you through procedurally generated dungeons, and there isn't a whole lot of story to them in a lot of cases. But every time you die or you find something special in the dungeon, it changes the house that you kind of reside in, and like your whole family is there. So you have daughters and sons, and like grandmothers and grandparents and stuff like that, and they all have little things that they evolve over time. Like, they have little snippets of their story. When I played the demo, I found this it was like a wolf pup that was its mother had just been killed, and then I killed all the enemies around it, and I was able to bring this pup back up to my house, and then I had this pup as a character that things like the other people in the house interact with. So that's pretty cool. And there's like a overall story of like the land is getting corrupted, and you have to go down to these dungeons in order to find the source of it and stop it. I think it looks really cool. It plays really well. There's 2-player co-op, online and local. They mentioned Gauntlet Legends is kind of like an inspiration as well. So like in the co-op side of things, it's kind of like that. Like you're going into the dungeon and you're collecting gold and stuff like that, and then you're also able to level up your characters and things like that. Just seems like a cool evolution of, we've seen procedural roguelikes, like there's a million of them on Steam. They just keep coming out. But this one looks like it's taking a little bit of a different approach to it. And that's coming to PC, which is what you're seeing gameplay-wise here. It's coming to Xbox One and PS4. No release date yet, but they're saying winter, I think is what, fall or winter. That's how you played this game too. What did you think of it?
Well, Ryan, I actually enjoyed it. I don't know if you got the same feel, but it kind of gave me a nostalgic feeling, like I was playing one of those old SNES games, or maybe to some extent an N64 game. I mean, the action was fun. It was very easy to understand. The gameplay was very straightforward. And honestly, I didn't encounter any bugs at all. There's a couple of other games I played there, which we'll get into later, where I encountered some stuff. But honestly really, really enjoyed it. I mean, the story, I may not have been paying 100% attention to the full story details, so some things were a little lost on me. But overall, I really enjoyed the experience, Ryan. That's what I can say about the game.
Yeah, that was a lot of my takeaways too. It played well, and felt like the little snippet that they had felt like a finished game, which is good.
Right. The only thing I will say is I did not get to rescue the wolf pup, so
okay.
I'm kind of disheartened about that, because I am I do like to save dogs when I can, so
I think we all do. Yeah, so there was something else. Oh, somebody mentioned that it looks like Diablo 3. That's also some of their inspiration as well. So they cited Gauntlet Legends and Diablo 3 as, like, in terms of gameplay, their big inspirations. It's a hack and slash. I will say that I played co-op with the developer at PAX, and he played as the warrior, which you saw in the gameplay, which we switched gameplays now. It's now on Frostpunk. He played as the warrior, and I played as like a fire mage. Like, she was throwing fireballs, like rapid fire, which was really fun. And it was
that's interesting, Ryan, because when I played and I wasn't in co-op, I played as the fire mage. Okay. And I remember keep getting these swarms of skeletons where I had to use my flame powers just to ignite them all.
Yeah, so the fire mage is a little bit more difficult than the warrior in single player, but in co-op it really shines, because the warrior's like in there smashing the big guys, and you're kind of pulled back a little bit of crowd control and taking out the little guys, while the warrior can get in there and get the big hits in. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun co-op, that's for sure.
Yeah. So it had like a couple different like classes then that you could pick from, kind of like in the Gauntlet series. You pick if you're the warrior, the mage, the rogue.
Yeah, so I guess there's going to be either 6 or 8 different characters that you can choose from. And in the demo, they only had the warrior, who had like a sword and a shield, and the mage, which had her fireball spell. I don't know if there's going to be different kinds of spells she can have. And I think they said that there's going to be like different weapons you can pick up along the way.
Okay.
So you won't always have to have the sword if you're the warrior. And they didn't really get into the other classes. I don't think they're there yet ready to talk about those. All right, so let's just go right into Frostpunk, seeing as that's the gameplay that's up right now. This is This War of Mines dev, the developer that did that, this is their follow-up game to that game, and this is like a city building simulator kind of thing, but it's all based around you know what? It's actually like alternate history, because when I read the like little story setup, it actually says it takes place in like the 1800s. It's very strange. That kind of threw me off. But it's like this alternate history where the world's kind of like frozen over, and you find this generator out in the middle of the tundra or whatever, and you have to get it up and running, and then that allows you to build a city around it because it generates warmth. So like the overall idea is that you're upgrading this generator to build a bigger city and keep your citizens warm, but you're also having to collect resources like wood and coal and steel to build things. But then there's also this hope and dissatisfaction meter. So like you'll enact these edicts, kind of they put these laws into place, and each law will give you some sort of bonus, like you know, hunters will bring food back faster, but there's going to be some sort of offset to that either brings your hope or distrust down, or dissatisfaction rather. So you kind of have to do this balancing act of like, so one of the examples at PAX that they had was you can either choose to build a cemetery where you bury your dead, like traditionally, or you can choose to build like a pit where you just throw the bodies in and cover them with snow. And they both take care of the issue of, you know, decomposing bodies causing sickness and stuff like that. But the people are a little less inclined to be in favor of the pit that you just throw bodies into. They're a little more in favor of the cemetery. But the problem with the cemetery
is it gives a whole new definition to 6 feet under, I believe.
Right. Yeah. So the offset there is that the cemetery requires time to bury a body. So there's going to be time where your people aren't working, and there's like this whole night and day cycle. That's the night and day cycle is kind of where it kind of falls apart a little bit. For me, when the sun goes down, your workers stop working, and you stop generating resources. So you're just kind of sitting there for a while, waiting for the sun to come back up and your workers to go back out. But there's a thing, there's an offset to that where you can make the workers work 24 hours a day, but obviously they're not going to like that very much. So it's going to be interesting. It seems, from what little I've played of it so far, it seems very plotting. It could be a little bit tedious, but
yeah, kind of sounds like a little bit like Fallout Shelter, like mechanic wise.
Mm-hmm.
They had that where you'd build like a room, and then that room might make some people happy, but then the other set might be mad depending who was working where.
Yeah, it's like that. Kind of like a little bit like that to the next level, a little bit more.
Yeah, especially with how
complexity to it.
On there.
And yeah, that game's coming out. I think it's coming out this month. I think it's like the 24th. It's coming out real soon, and we'll definitely have a review of that up. Hopefully by the time it's done.
I believe you're right, Ryan. I mean, the game looked almost completed, and just to add a few points, to me the game kind of felt like, in some ways, a version of Civilization, because of how it's a simulation-based game. It kind of also reminded me of the movie Snowpiercer to some extent, but honestly, Frostpunk was one of my favorite games playing there, just based on all the choices you have. I admit it took a while for me to figure out exactly what the hell I was doing and what choices to make and make sure I was playing it correctly. But Overall, I was actually pretty impressed by it, Ryan. I think I thought the graphics were wonderful for the type of game that it was. I liked the choices because they really test your morality in wanting people to survive to doing what makes them happy. So you have, like you said, you have to balance it.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I honestly think this is a very good successor to this War of Mine.
Mm-hmm.
Albeit this War of Mine packs more of an emotional punch than Frostpunk. Just because I think this War of Mine is based on actual real life events and Frostpunk is alternate history.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely like way less personal than this War of Mine because you're not dealing with individual people. You know, this War of Mine, you had like named characters, they had personalities, and you actually cared about them. Mostly because you only had a handful of people you were dealing with. Here, this is like, you know, a real-time strategy game where you're dealing with like dozens of people and nobody has a unique personality. But the underlying theme that 11-bit seems to be going with their games is kind of there where you're having to make these hard choices. Like, it's not just about, you know, get the research, get the bonuses, and move on. It's like you have to decide whether or not the problems offset the benefits you're going to get from it.
Right, because you don't want people to mutiny in that game because, as Ryan said, this is more of a collective than a personal view. So if your settlers mutiny, or the project fails, basically it's the end. So you have some tough choices to make.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. They mentioned things like as like the distrust and hope is going down, they insinuate that your people are getting upset and they're wanting to replace you. I don't know what actually happens when it gets down that low. I didn't get to a point where it got to a point where they were going to replace me or anything like that. I don't know if the game just ends or like, I don't know. I guess that'll be wait for the review. I'm sure I'll know.
Yeah. Hey, Ryan, hopefully if that ever happened in your game, you can send in your own personal army or the National Guard and suppress them and see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. There wasn't any
you
sort
ain't
of
kicking me out of
anything.
office without a fight.
Yeah, there wasn't any.
Right.
There, I didn't see them touching on military or anything like that. I wonder if there is anything like that. Like, if you go down the tech tree, you'll be able to have like a public, like a National Guard kind of thing to suppress riots and stuff like that. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if they did.
Turn it into a police state, basically.
Yeah, that seems to be the direction they're kind of going in, where you kind of have to make the hard decisions.
Right.
So
and, it comes out the 24th.
24th. Yeah, I know there's a couple of games coming out the 24th, and I thought this was one of them. I think that and BattleTech comes out the 24th, which I'm very much looking forward to that game too.
So Frostpunk is a perfect opportunity for people to play it so that they can be distracted until the new Avengers movie comes out that Friday.
Right. I think there's going to be a lot of people distracted by God of War as well.
That's true. I saw the reviews today, and I'm even interested in getting it.
We're kind of in a lull of games here, and then all of a sudden we're going to get dumped on by a bunch of stuff. At least I am.
I know God of War will be one of the ones I'm going to be in. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm going to pick that up too. So, we had like Monster Hunter, and then our next one was Far Cry. Now it's probably all going to be on God of War.
Yep.
Oh, no, I'm going to be on Far Cry. I just got it last night. I'm going to be on that game for a while. And I'm also playing MLB The Show because I'm such a sports buff, as some old people probably know about me from the past.
Yeah, every time we talk, you're talking about some type of sports game.
Yeah,
it's what real men do, Red. Come on now.
No, real men play sports.
Hey, there are such things as spectator sports. Come on now.
Well, yeah. And don't get me wrong, I like the sports games too, but it's not exactly my cup of tea as far as that goes. But I haven't played legitimately a sports game in probably a decade. So I don't know if I can exactly comment on how well it's played.
I think the last time I
Well,
played was like,
basically, it's now from 10 years, a lot of improved graphics and the introduction of microcurrency, but that's a topic
It's
for
like in
another
every
time.
game. Oh, but that's like every game.
Exactly.
All
Um,
right.
is the stream
It
getting
is
shitty
freezing,
again?
and every probably about minute and a half it'll freeze for about half a second, and it's probably got I'd say about 7-second delay.
Oh yeah, it's always gonna have a huge. It's supposed to have a delay.
yeah.
Are you going to talk about the giant Nordic elephant in the room this stream?
Are you gonna talk about the giant Nordic elephant? I don't know.
I don't know what giant Nordic elephant you're referring to.
I didn't see any giant Nordic elephants.
Well,
Me
well,
neither.
we're talking
Maybe I
Nordic
missed
because
it.
I believe the company we're talking about is Norwegian based. So
Yeah, they are European. I'm not sure exactly where they're out of. Um,
Yeah.
no, I'm pretty sure they're Norwegian.
I'm not sure. So the next game from 11-bit was called
Ah,
Moonlighter. Eventually, we're gonna get um, some gameplay up on that.
yeah.
Uh,
They're from Poland.
Poland, okay.
What is sports?
Yeah, Warsaw, Poland. Formed in 2010.
Close enough.
So Moonlighter. This is another kind of pixel arty dungeon diving game, but just like Children of Morta, it has a little bit of a twist on it. Um, so you go into these dungeons and you collect loot, and once you're satisfied with the loot you have, you go back up to the surface and then you sell it in your shop. Like you have a shop, it's kind of like a shopkeeping simulator where you set prices for your things, you put, desirable things out that the citizens of the town would enjoy, and you have to gauge their desire for it versus how much they'd pay for it. And that'll be like, if they pay too much, they're not going to be very happy. They're going to feel like they're being robbed. If they're happy with the price, then they'll come back and they'll be more willing to spend a little bit of extra money on something in the future, maybe. And I enjoyed it because it's just like another way to take these kind of rogue like procedural stuff and add a little bit of extra to it. So it's not just so repetitive. So there's like these two main pillars of the game. The combat and the dungeon diving is like, if you're familiar with The Binding of Isaac,
Yeah.
the kind of like room based generated rooms. You clear out the enemies in them. Sometimes there'll be a treasure chest that unlocks. You'll get some loot out of that. Then you move on to the next room, and the goal is to get up to the next level. Then eventually you get to the end of the dungeon, and there's a boss that you fight. But because of this shopkeeping mechanic, where that's the only way you can actually earn money, once you get a certain amount of loot, you then teleport out, and because you don't want to lose it. If you die, you lose all of the loot. I've got it trailing off here. Sai, did you play Moonlighter?
I actually did not play Moonlighter,
Okay.
Ryan. That was the one game I did not get a chance to play with that studio.
Okay.
But I did see you play, and it did look I mean, without playing it, I would say from what it looked kind of fun, but that's really all I can really give to this conversation.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you had played that one or not. Yeah, I mean that's that's the loop of it. You are earning money to kind of upgrade your armor and grab potions and things like that. And you're also upgrading the town that you're living in, so you can bring new merchants to the town, and that can unlock new things for you to buy and upgrade. So yeah, I don't know. I think it looks pretty cool. That game's coming out real soon too. That's coming out May 29th. They just recently announced that. That's coming to Xbox, PS4, and PC. And there's a Switch version that's been announced, but it's going to come out afterward. It's not going to come out at the it's not going to come out with the other versions. It'll be a little bit more down the road. Probably we talked about all we're going to talk about with God of War. Game's not out yet, so once the game comes out, maybe we'll have a podcast about it. I think we're all going to play it, so it makes sense that we try.
I'm pretty sure a few of us will be streaming it as well.
Yeah. So now we will move on to so that was it for 11-bit. I was very impressed with their presentation. Their booth was very nice. They were very professional with their interviews and the people they had on at the site to talk about their games, which was very good. It's very important for something like this because the show floor at these events can get kind of crazy, and if you have somebody that's not like on the ball, you can sometimes get some misinformation or just get you just not a very good time. But they were very good about it, and I look forward to working with them more in the future. So forget what I have coming up next on. Oh, this is Moonlighter right now. Perfect timing, right?
Yep.
Impeccable as always, Ryan.
Yeah, but you could take a look at that and see if that's up your alley. What you're seeing now is the dungeon diving part of it, so you can see that it's very much in the vein of The Binding of Isaac. The kind of rectangular room that you got to clear out. So one of the other games that I checked out was called Endless Mission, which is this really crazy, very ambitious sandbox kind of game where they have these tool sets that they're kind of providing the user with. They have like a platformer tool set, they have a RTS real-time strategy tool set, and they have a kart racing tool set, and they allow you to kind of combine all of the assets and gameplay mechanics together and just kind of go crazy with them. And it seems really cool. It seems extremely ambitious, and also seems like it could fall apart at any moment. So I don't know. From what I played, it was cool. It was a little janky. It's not quite. They're going to be coming out in early access on Steam pretty soon. So if you're interested in that and you see it on Steam early access, just know that's probably going to be really, really early access. But they're going to let people create their own assets and bring them into the game, and just kind of go crazy with it. It seems like a really cool idea. I don't really know if it's going to be up my alley specifically, but everything played pretty well. All the platforming and the RTS were very simple, but at the same time, that's kind of understandable because it's kind of like all these games thrown into one. That game's kind of hard to explain. I'm realizing that now. I don't know if it's coming through or not. Like I was able to go in and tweak like the size of my character whenever I wanted it to. So when I was doing the platforming part of it, I could just make the character gigantic and just kind of walk over enemies without having to like worry about getting hit by them or anything like that. So it's really just this kind of like open door policy on just do whatever you want. And then you can save your parameters of your level or your experience, upload them, and have somebody else download them and experiment with them and play them and stuff like that. There's quite a few of these games that have come out since like I guess Minecraft kind of started all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, I was kind of blown away with the idea that you're going to be able to combine all of these things together, because I've never seen that particular aspect of it before. I've seen like building games and stuff like that, but not like these distinct kind of like, hey, here's an RTS. You can actually make an RTS game in this game, and then you can also incorporate kart racing into it. I don't know if that's something you'd want to do, but you can do it. So that was pretty cool. We played, what was that name of the game? We played the kind of Streets of Rage game, Si.
It was, oh God, what was it again?
Raging Justice.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
Raging Justice.
Raging Justice. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah. So
sounds intriguing.
Yeah, that was, like I said, that's like, it's very much Streets of Rage beat 'em up style game. Coming from Team 17, which is a company that's been, they put out, I don't know if you played Overcooked. They put out Yooka-Laylee last year. What was their they own the Worms franchise. You know those.
I love Worms.
I remember those games.
Yeah,
I love those.
So they own that IP, and they put out games under that. This is basically that. It's a Streets of Rage, kind of like modern take on that. I thought it was pretty cool. I'm not sure about the character models. The character models were like these hyper realistic kind of looking things that didn't really animate too well. I don't know if I'm keying on that, but it played pretty good, and I think Sai, you had a pretty good time with it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, Ryan. And again, the fighting type games like those, I've never been huge on. I've played a few, but I honestly thought it was really enjoyable. I loved how this was a game you and I played co-op.
Mm-hmm.
We met one of the developers, right, Ryan? A really nice guy, by the way. He was really accommodating to us, and I had a lot of fun. I mean, and what's even weird is that there's well, not weird. I think it's a benefit is that there's friendly fire. So there were times when I was doing body slams or roundhouse kicks, and Ryan got into the way of me. So his character went down.
I got in the way.
I think I hit. What?
Yeah, I got in the way. Sure.
Yeah, you did get into the way. I was trying to get my Chuck Norris on, and you were right there, and you ended up in the crossfire, man. That's not my fault.
My mistake for stepping in front of your foot.
Mm-hmm. But it was I can't say, Ryan, it was really enjoyable. I mean, I think it's going to really appeal to those who like to play like I don't know, Street Fighter or those old SNES fighter games, Ryan. I think you might have gotten that impression.
Yeah, Double Dragon, yeah. Yeah, just
Double Dragon,
the beat 'em ups and stuff like that. Like I remember playing that Ninja Turtles game in the arcades. It reminded me of that.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Turtles in Time.
Yeah.
Turtles in Time, Double Dragon, Battletoads. I mean, there were a number of those type of games.
Yep. So if you like that type of game, this will be right up your alley. And it's got co-op, so you can do local and online, as far as I know. The developer was actually an ex-Rare developer. He talked about that a little bit. So he's got a little bit of pedigree, and he's I guess he's been working on it for a very long time. He's very excited.
8 years, Ryan. Yeah. 8 years he was working on it.
He's very excited to finally
That's some
get
time.
it. Yeah.
I'll say, I mean, what do you do? The question I have, Ryan, is what do you do after 8 years and you release the game? I mean, whether it's a success or not, that's 8 years. I mean, you would feel like something's missing. Like
Go out and get a drink and thank God that you're done.
True.
Yeah.
But what's even worse, I mean, if the game fails, that it's going to be, which I don't
Go out
think
and get
it
a
will.
second drink.
There you go. Get me, bartender, get me a Jack and Coke and a Glenlivet, please, together.
And I will be here all night.
Yeah. Nah, I joked
No, leave the bottle.
when we were leaving. Of course, most of the people at Team 17 we're probably going to see again next year. But with him, I was like, I wasn't sure. But I was like, oh, maybe you'll have another game next year. He's been working on he's been working on something for 8 years, and
He's
then
been
he's
working
gonna
on
have
it for
us.
8 years, Ryan. He doesn't want to think about the next thing yet. He probably wants to go on a big ass vacation, depending on how much he makes.
Yeah, that's coming out soon too. I think that's coming out in May. So he must be pretty excited about that. Right on the.
I think he's Actually, I think he's more of a nervous wreck than anything, Ryan. I mean,
yeah, I think that's mostly what these people are when their games finally come out.
Yeah, you don't know if it's going to succeed or if it's going to fail. I mean,
yeah.
Sometimes succeeding it might sound, succeeding can by times be far more stressful than failing, because then you got to recreate that maybe for another game that they might want you to make.
Yeah.
True, Red. And something I'd like to add, I believe Michael Jordan said this once. In order to succeed, you must first learn to fail. And I think that's really good advice that everyone needs, that everyone should take into account. And it's been true to me, and I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to that as well. But I wish this guy nothing but success, and I thought it was well polished. So I think he could actually do well with this game.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, let me know if the stuttering gets worse. There's not too much I can do about it right now. Seems like it's whatever the same issue was last time.
I've been noticing, and just simply from watching a stream, that it's increasing the time of delay between what we're saying and what they're seeing in the stream. It was like 7 seconds, and I'd say it's probably about 20 seconds to 30 seconds now.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I'm more worried about if it starts stuttering like it did last time.
It's not doing that so much as it pauses for maybe about a half second instead of longer than that. Okay. It's not really stuttering. It's just
if that gets worse, let me know and we'll.
I just did it.
If we'll try to restart in the stream or something like that. Yeah, right now on the screen you're seeing that endless mission game that I was talking about earlier.
Yes.
I'm going to be going to the real-time strategy portal right now.
All right.
Also at Team 17, there will be gameplay of... I am forever going to get these two names screwed up, so forgive me. You're going to see, after this, gameplay from Planet Alpha.
Oh, yes.
They have another game coming out called Genesis Alpha 1.
Yep.
So
I can tell you all about that.
They're
game,
two
Ryan.
extremely different games with Alpha in the title, and they're from the same publisher, so I'm going to get them confused constantly. But Planet Alpha is like a platformer game. If you've played games like Limbo and Inside, these are the kinds of the inspirations they're drawing from. Very simple gameplay. You're just kind of running to the right, and it's all about kind of like investigate, like observing your environment and figuring out what you're supposed to do. There's like this night and day cycle where when you change it to night, certain plants and things come alive that allow you to jump on them, and then when you make it go back to day, the plants change, so you have to constantly be cycling through that to figure out how to solve the puzzles and stuff that you come across. And It's a very nice looking game. It was very early build, so the frame rate that you're going to see isn't really all that great, but it does look very nice, and obviously they'll square away the frame rate before that game comes out. No release date on that yet, but if you're a fan of those kinds of side scrollers, like I said, Inside and Limbo, you probably enjoy that game. Aesthetically very different, whereas Limbo and Inside is very dark, very grimy. This is very bright, very vibrant, and it kind of like sets up these set pieces of this planet that you're stranded on in the background, where like this gigantic flying whale will fly over, and it'll be like a cool set piece to watch and stuff like that. So I'm interested to see how that pans out. The gameplay was okay. Some of the jumping and everything was a little not quite as precise as I would have liked it to be, but maybe that's something they'll straighten out as well. Yeah, I know Lee in the chat's fan of Team 17. We mentioned it last week, and he's like, "Oh, they're from my neck of the woods." Yeah, they were all English British people.
Yep, they were Brits.
Like I said,
Thank God I didn't tell them I was Irish, because that could have caused some internal conflict.
Good thing I didn't show up. I'm Scottish.
Yeah.
Oh man, we would have been screwed, Red.
It would have just been one. It would have just been one big fight. You just would have been brawling all. It would have been just like Raging Justice.
Absolutely, we would have ended up, and it would have ended with me or Red bombing the Brits game studio display. So.
All right. All
right.
Moving on. Team 17, like I said, they also had Genesis Alpha 1, which is another really hard game to really explain.
It was kind of like, Ryan, the game kind of reminded me of the movie Alien of a sort, being trapped up in that space station.
Well, see, this is what's funny.
That's not Alien. That's like Alien 2 or 3, isn't it?
No, that's Alien 1. No, this is more Alien 1 to me. Being all caught up in a claustrophobic space station or ship,
No escape area.
Well, this is what's funny is after Cy had played and after I had played, we were talking about it, and I was like, "Oh, did you get down to the planet?" And he's like,
"No, I did not get to the planet."
"No, I didn't get to the planet."
Ryan, do you want to know a funny story? Part of the game was, how you're supposed to build a space station and how you're trying to find a new planet to exploit life and everything. Well, the first time I played the mission, the first time I played the game, I played it twice, and I had to build like the biosphere, crew quarters, transportation deck to get resources, and I was stuck on a level because I couldn't understand it, and I just got so fed up. I destroyed the biosphere and the biosphere is what produces the ship's oxygen level, thinking I could just die and restart the game. And it turned out it killed my character. Then I transferred to someone who became the captain. They died. So basically my crew for the first game all suffocated to death. So I guess you can see that's how well I can lead a mission.
Yeah.
First time around, at least.
So just like the other game that I was talking about, this is very, very early in development. It's very, very janky, very, very the graphics really weren't that great. But the ideas that they have going on here are kind of crazy. So every time it's a roguelike. Let's get that out of the way. But it's not. It's different. It's not like you're constantly.
It's ambitious, Ryan. I think we can agree with that.
Yeah, it's ambitious. But it's not like you're constantly dying and restarting like you do in a lot of these games. It's more about trying to get a really, really, really good long run. So when you start out a game, you actually begin building your space station. And you have to put things that you need in a space station in order to survive. Like, you need, like Sai was talking about, the place where that generates oxygen. You need a food source, and this is where Sai missed the ship, so to speak. He didn't build a hangar, which is where you get your spaceship. And the whole idea is you have a small crew that you manage. I think you can get more as you go along, but you start with the person you're playing as, and 2 other characters, and you have to assign them jobs on the ship. And you go from like solar system to solar system, scanning planets to try to find planets that are suitable to collect resources from, so you can keep expanding your space station.
And what's even more interesting on that, Ryan, is I spent most of my game transporting stuff. The instructions never told me to build a hangar, so that's why I never landed. But I can say that when you transport things, there's always the risk of hostile alien life being beamed aboard your ship, and you have to gun it down. And you need to collect resources from those aliens because for some games, you can build a cloning laboratory, and you need its DNA to create clones, which can be added to your crew. But I will say, Ryan, the shooting aspect was probably one of the more refined parts of the game, because I found the shooting, pretty. I found it pretty conventional. So, but I agree with everything else you said on that. But
yeah, the shooting was okay. A lot of the jank came in like the animations, and the textures weren't great, and like the faces on your crew and everything looked like
first generation androids, if that.
Well, they looked like PlayStation 2 level, like just kind of like these muddy faces. There was no texture
try
on them.
PlayStation 1, Ryan. I'm sorry, but it was PlayStation 1.
No, they were rounded edges. Give it some credit. The nose was round.
I'm sorry. I'll give credit when credit is due, and credit was not due at that point. But
yeah,
I mean, it's early development, so I'll give them some. I'll ease off on that.
Are you gonna give them credit?
No, I said I'll give credit when credit is due.
Sounded like you were gonna give them some credit.
No, not for the graphics yet.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's early development, so we should give them some time. But with those graphics, that's like basically those graphics were like a minor league compared to what we were used to.
Yeah, that game, like I was saying, it really early and needs some work, but the ideas are there. It definitely needs some better tutorialization. I was fortunate enough to have one of the PR people, when I needed help, point me in a direction and be like, you should check that out. But that obviously needs to be in the game. There needs to be some
hey, go here.
Yeah, there has to be something like
yeah, exactly.
There needs to be.
I would have loved to land on a planet. Instead, I was stuck on the ship, just aimlessly transporting materials up and shooting aliens for supplies.
I didn't do any of that. I didn't do any transportation. I didn't have any aliens invade my ship. So there's sounds like we just got 2 very different experiences playing that game.
Which kind of goes to its ambition, Ryan. I mean, there's a lot they could do. There's a lot of potential. So, I mean, I think we just have to wait and see what they do with it, and hopefully they bring it back next year and we can see some of the improvements.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, no release date or anything. It's still quite a ways off, and I'm not sure about platforms yet or anything because it's so early as well. Although they did recommend using a controller, so it probably coming to console as well as PC. Yeah, I think that Stephanie's asking about Shaq Fu. Shaq Fu was there.
This is Shaq.
He was real.
I want to talk about Shaq Fu.
Shaq Fu was real. It was legendary. I didn't play it, but I saw it. I saw it being played. And you'll all be happy to know that at some point I'm going to get a review code for that game. And you will all hear my opinion about Shaq Fu.
Did I hear code or codes?
Code. Just one.
Oh, come on, Ryan. I got to play Shaq.
I would not subject anyone else to the the legend that is Shaq.
Was it that
Fu.
bad?
I don't know. Listen,
It's Shaq. Come on, it's gonna sell though because it's Shaquille O'Neal. So
It's Shaq. Well, I liked him better as Shazam.
and Kazam.
Kazam.
Yeah, Kazam.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Kazam 2 to come out or Kazam the video game. Man,
Yeah,
can you imagine?
Yeah.
I see. I actually said Shazam, and that was totally wrong. Yeah, it was Kazam, wasn't it?
That's
You
the
should-
Mandela effect.
Yeah, you got to look
Red.
that
You
up,
almost
dude.
would have had a full experience if you said it was Shazam starring Sinbad instead of Kazam starring Shaq.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a whole thing. You should look that up at some point. There's a whole theory about
It's
Shazam and
basically a
Kazam,
gem.
Sinbad and Shaq, and it's kind of crazy that like people have truly believe that there's a movie out there called with Sinbad. Yeah.
And for those people
It's
who
crazy.
don't recall any of those movies, you know what we call them? Winners, because they win for not remembering either one.
Right, yeah. They're the real legends.
You want your time back from all that the time you spent watching it.
Yeah. There's a couple other games that I saw but I didn't play. Like we saw Sony was there with Detroit Become Human, which looks
I
like
want to play that.
I'm actually excited for that, Ryan. I think Detroit has some of the best graphics that I've seen in a game in some time, and it's possibly ever. I was that impressed with the graphics that they were showing.
Okay, that's a lot to say considering. half the
I know
games
it's a
that have
lot to
come
say,
out-
but I know it's a lot to say, but from what I saw, I was impressed with the graphics. Now, does that mean it's going to be a great game? Not necessarily, because I mean, again, Battlefront also had great. Star Wars Battlefront had great graphics, and look what happened to that.
yeah.
Enough said there.
We didn't play it, but they had a ton of kiosks there. It didn't look like too much more than what we've seen in trailers and demos and stuff like that. But that's coming out pretty soon too. I think next month or the month after. I'm not sure.
I thought it was not. It had one of those TBD dates to it.
No, they gave it a release date.
No, it's a May 25th release,
May
I
25th,
believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or sometime in May, it's getting released.
Yeah, May 25th. 25th. God.
Okay.
20
Beef.
Beef.
25th. May 25th.
Twiffy.
That's all right. It's all good.
A lot of games coming out. I mean, I know another game that's coming out that's in indie I was looking forward to. I don't know if it was there. Is Vampire.
No, I didn't. I didn't see that.
I didn't see it, but I have seen a lot of like videos and like people posting things about Vampire, and it seems like a game a lot of people are excited about. I don't know if it's a whole Anne Rice or True Blood nostalgia or just
I really
preferences,
hope not.
But maybe I should say Bram Stoker instead. But
Yeah, that game looks like it's pretty ambitious for like its scope, like what the team.
Okay,
and
do you
everything like
remember what was that game that came out 1886, I believe it was?
Oh yeah,
I
the
do.
order.
that? The Order?
The Order. I believe that it's probably going to be similar to that game. I just hope it's not as linear.
so it's going to be 7 hours of gameplay for $60, Red.
Don't know. I'm talking about based on what I've seen from the videos, the way the gameplay looks, the way that just the way they have it set out looks very
Yeah.
similar to the Order.
I think the aesthetic looks very similar to the Order. I think it's a little bit more of an open world kind of experience than an RPG.
That I don't know. Yeah, that part I don't know.
That's
They
what
haven't
I've
released
seen.
much on that.
I think I don't know if Lee is still there in the chat. I know he's been looking forward to Vampire. He probably has a little bit of info he can dump in there. Yeah, that game looks pretty interesting. I do like the aesthetic, the kind of like turn of the century. I'm guessing it's London. I don't know 100% sure, but it seems
Yeah,
like
it looks like it's turn of the century.
Generally, it's based in London or
Jack the Ripper.
Transylvania, would be my guess.
Yep.
Yeah, so that I did not see that game there. I don't know if it was there or not, but I did not see it. I did scope out State of Decay 2, which is coming out next month as well. That game looks pretty good. Looks like what you'd expect from a follow-up to State of Decay, just a little bit more of the first one. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, that was probably it for the big things that stood out to me. It's I saw Below, which has been there for off and on here and there. That looks like a pretty cool game. It looks like I'm not really sure how to describe that. It's kind of like a little bit Dark Soulsy, but it's top down isometric, where you're kind of going into this bottomless cave, and there's like some survival stuff too, like you have to cook food, keep your explorer alive. It's got a really good aesthetic, like they're taking advantage of, like, you're very tiny on this huge screen, so it kind of gives this sense of scale. That seems really cool. So looking forward to that. Yeah, I think that probably covers up PAX. Like I said before, if you have an opportunity to go, you should totally do it. It's a lot of fun.
Ryan,
One thing I wanted to add, Ryan. We had the pleasure of, now we didn't get to meet him, but Jason Mewes, who many of you know as Jay from Jay and Silent Bob movies, was doing a Facebook-themed, Facebook-themed kiosk game. Well, not a game. They were playing.
Facebook had a Facebook gaming booth there. It was kind of pretty elaborate. I was surprised that they had such a big presence, because that's the first time I'd seen it there. And Jason Mewes was there playing Injustice with people. He was bringing people up on the couch, and
he was getting his ass beat every time.
He was getting his ass handed to him. He
could not win, no matter what superhero or villain he chose. All the people there beat his ass.
That's why they should have had Kevin Smith there.
Yeah.
Oh man. But hey, growing up, I loved those movies. Still do. So, I mean, it was okay. I didn't get to meet Jason Mewes, but it was fun just seeing him in person, and just and it was amusing to see him get his ass beat, because I was talking to some of the Facebook crew there, and we were just having short chats, and he was like, "Yep, he's getting his ass kicked." So.
Did you just say it was amusing?
I'm sorry?
Did you just say it was amusing?
Amusing.
Oh,
so see that.
Jason Mewes was amusing?
Amusing, Ryan, I would say.
All right.
So we're getting a question in, because we're buffed behind a little bit. What's your top game from PAX? What would you guys say you like the best?
Why don't you go, Sai?
Well, the game that I thought has the best chance of success, I'm going to say Frostpunk, Ryan, or at least games that we played, Frostpunk. But the game I had the most fun playing was Raging Justice.
Okay.
If that makes
Double
sense
Dragon.
at all. Enter the Dragon.
Yeah, for me, I'm really looking forward to Children of Morta. That was the first one we talked about.
That's a good choice. Good choice.
I like the aesthetic. I like the gameplay loop seems to be cool, and I'm looking forward to doing some co-op.
It looks like your type of game.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you want to do any co-op, but
yeah, we'll see how that goes. Maybe one match of co-op, and then that'll be it. It's enough.
Ryan, you mean to tell me your favorite game wasn't Shaq Fu?
I didn't play Shaq Fu.
Oh, I know, but
maybe
you could have also said the favorite game to watch too.
Maybe if I had, that would have been my number one, but I didn't play it. I can't say that You know, I can't.
No,
I have
I know,
credibility.
Ryan. And if you and
I have
even if
to
you did, I
maintain.
wouldn't recommend it because people would say you were Shaqtin' the Fool by playing that,
Yeah.
which is a popular segment Shaq does.
I think I hear
Uh,
Stephanie's heart breaking.
Yeah.
Right?
So
Sorry, Steph. I'm excited for Shaq Fu too. Don't worry.
So to in honor of PAX being indie focused and everything, I wanted to take a couple minutes and let everybody talk about what's one of their favorite indie games. Like, what's their top indie game that's been out already, and who wants to go first?
Not I, says I, because I
mean,
can't think of the
I
indie games that are
could.
already out.
I've got one indie game, Ryan. It's now the studio's no longer could be considered indie, but my favorite indie game of all time is probably the first season of Telltale's The Walking Dead. It was story linear. It was incredibly fun. That might be cheating, but I remember
no,
that being as
At the time,
As,
they were an independent studio.
right. But I mean now, and that game really transformed them into a major power. It's almost like the gold standard of what indie studios want to do. Make a game that's so popular that they can make that next step for their company to produce.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a good pick. Derek, do you have?
My question was, did Don't Starve fall into the indie category?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, then that would probably be my pick.
That's
I
a great
highly enjoyed that series.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was just so different, and the different mechanics they had in for it just made it a lot of fun. Because you wanted to keep going, see how far you can make it, then be like, hey, my brother, or hey, one of my friends, come over, sit here now, see how far you can get.
Yeah. No, that's a very influential game. It's kind of like one of the cornerstones when you're talking about like the wave of survival games that have kind of swept the indie scene and are kind of slowly creeping into AAA games now.
Yeah.
And
Ryan, I actually have one more game if people don't want to count my first pick. Firewatch. That's one of my favorite indie
that's
games.
definitely on my list.
That'd probably be coming up on the top of mine. As far as indie games go.
Their new game is starting to get some hype to it as well, so I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's in the Valley of the Gods or something like that. Campo Santo is the developer there. But yeah, Derek Clay is a great developer. They've done a ton of games, and recently I've been checking out Oxygen Not Included, which is in early access on Steam, and that game, wow, is that a complicated game? But it's like you were talking about Fallout Shelter earlier. This is like Fallout Shelter times like 1,000. It's insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
I might have to check that out then.
Yeah, it goes places pretty quickly. So Red, do you have anything specific?
Well, the thing is, Sai has pretty much said it. I'm not usually an indie gamer. I know that one of the ones that came out that I got a little bit of a chance to play was that Deliverance game.
Okay,
I believe that falls under indie.
Kingdom Come Deliverance. Yeah.
Yep.
Didn't you like The Witcher 3?
Say what?
Didn't you like The Witcher 3?
Witcher 3 isn't an indie game.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Well, technically it is. I mean,
yes, it falls under that, but
it's absolutely an indie game. If you're gonna, it's an independent studio.
So if you want to do that, then I would push. If you want to call that an indie game, I would throw that at the top. Then yeah. The Witcher 3 is probably one of my favorite games that's come out in the last few years. I've played through the story probably 3 or 4 different times. And I've done it on the hardest difficulty down to the easiest difficulty. So, if you want to say those, then yeah, definitely. Any of the Witcher games, to be honest. But
Yeah.
when I think indies, I think of games that are not a big studio, whereas what is it? Project Red that does that
Yes, CD
for
Project.
The Witcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wouldn't call them a small studio,
No, they're not
but
small, but they're not owned by a publisher.
yeah.
So like
So
you're not talking about like BioWare or something like that that's owned by EA. So
yeah,
they operate independently. And
they might be independent, but I wouldn't call them an indie. I mean anymore, I guess.
and I'm looking forward to their new game, their Cyberpunk. Very excited.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Cyberpunk
so am I.
2077.
Yeah.
I am really, really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Ever since I first heard about that one, I was like, come on,
Yeah.
let's go, come
Let's
on,
go.
come
Let's
on.
go. Let's
Yeah,
go.
since,
Gimme,
like, the
gimme.
first, like, screens of it.
I want it right now. Give it to me.
So for me, mine's
Shut up and take my money.
right, my
Right?
cyber money. Mine's definitely Stardew Valley. That
Oh, I
game
knew that.
fucking blew me away when that game came out, and it's consumed so much of my time.
Isn't it getting some new stuff coming to it?
Yeah, they're apparently finally putting in the multiplayer that they've been talking about since pretty much launch. I don't really know. I never really wanted multiplayer in that game.
Right.
I don't know how that's all going to work, but I'm interested to see it implemented and see how it goes, because I know a lot of people do. Yeah, man, that game is just, you could just play that game literally forever. Even if like you go through the quote unquote story, because there's like a through line to it that you can complete all of the objectives and get to the end, or you can just farm pretty much forever because the seasons will just keep going and going and going. What's weird about that game is like I never had any reverence for like Harvest Moon or anything like that, any of the games that it takes inspiration from.
Right.
But yeah, man, it just grabbed me. Like I probably put like 80 hours on Steam when it came out, and I don't even know how much I put in when it came out on Switch, because I rebought it on Switch when it came out there, and I played it like crazy there too.
Speaking of the Switch too, I've been having a ton of fun on Epic.
What's
been a
that?
blast. On Epic.
On Epic? Oh yeah, that's right. You were you said you picked that up. Yeah, that's a cool game. That's like just a really straightforward RPG. Yeah, Lee,
I
Lee
remember
in the
you
chat.
first talking about that game when it came out too. I'm not the least bit surprised.
Stardew? Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Lee says he enjoyed Ruiner. I never actually ended up playing Ruiner, but the it looked pretty cool. I liked the cyberpunk aesthetic on that. And then Derek's mentioning Journey, which obviously is on my list too. That's a fucking incredible game. All right. We're gonna wrap it up with a new segment we're calling. I don't know what I'm calling it yet. We're just let's just call it endorsements for right now, and I'll come up with a clever name for it next time. Basically, we're just gonna recommend something that is kind of off topic, like wouldn't normally come up with a normal video game podcast. That being said, I'm going to recommend a video game.
Fine, back to your corner.
Yeah.
You had all these ideas when we first started discussing this. Back to your corner.
Yeah, that those are for you. Those are for you. Those are for you. I'm endorsing Minute. It's MINIT, which is an indie game that came out a couple weeks ago. Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation. The idea around this is you only have 60 seconds to live. You pick up the sword, and then you every 60 seconds your timer resets. You die. You go back to your house. You resurrect, and then you need to try to make as much progress as you can in 60-second chunks. And it's all about exploration. It's all about puzzle solving, and it's this cool blend of speed running and puzzle solving, because you only have this 60-second timer, so you know where you have to go, and sometimes it's you literally only have 55 seconds to get there. But once you get there and you accomplish what you need to do, it saves that little bit of progress.
Hurry.
Yeah, right. It saves a little bit of that progress, so you don't have to do it again. So there are stages where it saves your progress, and it's just this really fantastic flow. And it's just this little tiny game. The aesthetic is very black and white Game Boy, early Game Boy aesthetic. It's kind of got a Zelda vibe going on with it too. Yeah, I had a really fun time with that game. You can check my review on voxelvoice.com, where I gave it an 8.5. All right, who's next? Who's endorsing next? Derek?
Let's go, Derek.
All right. Well, first
We'll go down the pictures.
Monster.
Monster?
Just because, me and Lee pretty much run on these things, especially when we're podcasting. But as far as my actual endorsement for this, I'm going to go with the Final Fantasy TCG. I'm not sure how long ago it actually came out, but its initial release did not do well at all. So they kind of...
It's been over a year.
Yeah, I think the initial release was maybe 2 or so, because they scrapped it.
Mm-hmm.
And then re-released what they called the Opus, and now they're on the fifth version of Opus.
They do that a lot with Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Just in general.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Realm Reborn. Yeah. This would be the same kind of thing. They put out an idea, the people liked the idea, the initial idea just wasn't good, so they just went back to the drawing board.
So the first one was Final Fantasy 11.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then the second one was Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, the card game's a ton of fun to play. You play with only 50 cards. They have each of the different materia type. And it plays kind of like Magic and Dragon Ball with a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! All kind of mixed in together, but it just works really well. Because instead of having mana in Magic, you have a backup character. And then they can give you so many crystal power to pull out your forwards, and then your forwards can attack or block. And it's really ability based on your card, so the way you stack and make things very combo based. So it's just been a lot of fun. We've got a whole group of us at work that have been playing. Every day we'll learn something new, or we'll be playing one way, and then all of a sudden something will come up, so we'll flip out the rule book we have and look through and read the advanced rules, and oh, we've been doing this wrong. So then you got to go back to the drawing board, change it. It stays very fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna, I think the Opus 5 just came out a couple weeks ago, and the next one will be out in July, I believe. And they also have starter decks that they release with it. There's 8 of them so far.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of do 2 or 3 with each set, and then the starter decks are based off a certain final.
Oh. I didn't get into that one, but I know about it, and I've seen how popular it's gotten.
Yeah, it's it's starting to get up there pretty big. So.
Yep.
All right, Red, what do you got?
Well, my endorsement is not the pops you see in the back.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, come on, man! That would have been really good.
It would have been.
The secret is that he doesn't actually want those.
I started with
some people don't. You don't necessarily want them. You just want to keep them until they get a high value and you can sell them.
Sometimes, with mine, I wanted to decorate it. But if I had to endorse anything, I'd have to go with my Astros. As far as for gaming or for anything for whatever you're doing that has you using headphones and a microphone. They right now I have the version 2s, the Astro A50s. I contacted them recently about one of my first gen A50s and got a mass amount of support. They even sent me free cords and so forth to help fix my first gens. And so after they were unable to do that, they even gave me a coupon code to get 1% off as well. So I mean,
cool.
That would be my endorsement.
I think they were
this
just.
week.
I think Astro was just purchased by Logitech.
I hope not.
Yeah, they were.
I hope not.
It happened like 6 months ago or something like that.
Yeah, it would end Red's love for that.
Oh God, no. The problem. I don't get me wrong. Logitech is and all, but when it comes to their headsets and stuff, they in the past haven't been that great in my opinion. So I've always had issues with Logitech. Other than this camera I have here, the
Oh yeah, the cameras are awesome.
That would be the only other thing I might say that I would endorse is the Logitech C920 or 922.
That's funny. I'm using a 922.
Or we could save that for another day.
Yeah. So.
And we've got a 920 right there.
Yep. But that would be my endorsement. And, if you guys want to stream or do something like that, or if you're playing, this is a good headset. Any one of their headsets, if you like wired, they have the A40s, which are pretty good. If you like wireless, the A50s are great. And with a current gen, they have a nice little docking station that there's no cords at all that you have to plop play to charge it, which is really, really handy.
It looks like this right here.
Yep.
So I'll support his. I have the A40s with the mix amp, and then I have the Gen 3 A50s. And I'm about to get A50s.
I'm about to get the Gen 3 A50s as well.
Oh, so nice. Get the mod kit for it with the ear cuffs. Perfect.
All right, so what do you got?
Well, Ryan, first I'd like to remind people that Westworld is coming back a week from this coming Sunday.
Yep.
So I want everyone to make sure to know that Ryan and I believe, are starting up our podcast for season 2 of Westworld. So you have exactly, about 8 or 9 days to binge watch the entire first season. Before
haven't seen it.
And listen to our podcast of the first season.
Oh, absolutely. You can't just watch the show and then not listen to the podcast. That would be completely ridiculous, Ryan.
Right.
But if I had to endorse something, not that it needs endorsement, Ryan. I know a lot of us are doing shooters. Me myself, I just got Far Cry 5, and I've been playing Fortnite, so don't judge me on that level. But I'd also like to say, if you do want to get into the sports season, I do recommend MLB The Show. Yeah, thank you for that, Red. I appreciate that. I'll keep this short and sweet. Basically, I think MLB The Show 18 is an improvement over last year's edition. And, yeah, I just think it's a fun game.
Cool.
See, hey, you wanted me to keep it short, so...
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, so that's gonna do it up. Cy mentioned the Westworld podcast. I think maybe Stephanie may try to be on that. I'm not. Nothing
I thought you were
official.
gonna say I'm gonna get fired.
Nothing
I thought you
official.
were gonna get fired.
Yeah, I mean you might be, but that's just.
Oh,